All right, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. So, I want to talk about a couple things this afternoon to help you guys with baseball. And Jack's going to be with me at the end of the week, but he's still traveling from the Kentucky Derby over the weekend. So, we'll get together at the end of the week when he's back home and settled. But yeah, we're at the time of the year now where baseball betting is tricky because you're trying to figure out what trends to look at, what things to help you. And obviously, I'm doing the Orioles and I have my own method. But if for those of you that are betting other baseball games, and even if you are betting the Orioles, there's two things that I want to talk about today that hopefully will help you guys. The first is my rule. And again, you have to have rules. So my rule is minus 150 is the biggest favorite for baseball that I'll ever give out period that I'll ever bet minus 150. I suggest you pick a number. If it's higher than that, um, yeah, at your own risk, because tonight's a perfect example. The Orioles are minus 215. You have three games: the Dodgers, the Rays, the Orioles, all gigantic favorites. And you just got to be careful. Even if you knock it down to minus one, you're going to knock down the juice. We've talked about this before. You knock down the juice, minus one, you can't lose. But obviously, if they win by one, you don't win your bet. So that's one way of going about it. But still, you're going to pay minus 165, minus 170 for the Orioles tonight at minus one. So my rule is I'm just going to stay away from it. I think NFL football is a little bit different. If you really like a game and a team is minus 3.5, minus four, minus five, and you want to pay that 190, that 220, it's a little bit of a different conversation, right? I prefer in that situation to do a teaser because I don't want to pay that kind of juice regardless. But I'm at least more open minded to that when it comes to college and pro football, not with baseball, just the variance. And I don't care how good the matchup is. I don't care. Everything can be pointing in the right direction. It's just, man, you lose those games and just really, really set you back. So I'm staying away from that. Burns is minus, I think it's like 230 to start off. He could be 215 in some places. Bradish tomorrow night will probably be close to the same thing. And then the Orioles are home for a bunch of games. So we're going to see a lot of big numbers from the Orioles, which will make my job a little bit more challenging. But at the same time, I'm not really relying on the money line with the Orioles. I'm trying to find different props with our pitchers and hitters. And so far, so good. I'm pleased with where things are going. Obviously, I want to win every single game, but I set my benchmark at trying to hit 60% with the Orioles, and that's right where we are right now. So that's good. As far as the NBA playoffs, I've mentioned it a couple of times. Well, frankly, outside of watching Anthony Edwards, because he's been, man, a joy to watch. He doesn't require a pick and roll. He'll just go against his matchup. You'll see tonight with the Mavericks, with Luka, everything will be a pick and roll. Same thing with Kyrie. Everything's a pick and roll. That's the majority of the offense, which makes it not as fun for me to watch. But man, Anthony Edwards, something different. So but anyway, I say that to say that I'm not enjoying the NBA enough to watch it intently enough to then offer bets on it. So I'm still staying away from the NBA. Never bet NHL, never was a fan, so that's not an option for me. And yeah, I'm going to ride this all the way out with the Orioles, and then football season, I'll be giving out NFL, and we'll see about college football. But okay, so that's the first thing, right? No big favorites for me with the Orioles, and I strongly recommend having a number and sticking to it as far as the juice that you're willing to pay. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is the trends. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who bets for a living. Now, when I say bets for a living, he bets a lot of money. He still has a job, but he bets significant amount every day, and he bets on baseball. He's just not a candidate to join the company, but he's somebody that I talk to fairly often. And I was asking him, like, what are you looking at? Like, what are the number one, number two things that you're looking at if you're handicapping baseball games? Because as you guys know, my thoughts are you have to watch the games, right? But I get that it's not realistic to watch every pitch in every single game. And if you do want to bet, you want to find some sort of, I guess, plan. So I was like, man, let me pick your brain for a second. And one of the things that he told me that's the hardest thing to decide is to look at the history of a batter versus a pitcher versus how that player's performing currently this year. So, and as he's talking, he starts, I'm listening and he's going on and on. And I'm like, man, you know what? you're just proving my point is what I'm thinking about why you have to watch these games, why it's so hard because you don't know exactly what statistic to look at or if this guy's improved. He might be 2 for 18 lifetime against this pitcher and he hasn't faced him this year. And that's influencing your gambling decisions, but they're different players. There's been improvements made in baseball almost more than any sport. You see from year to year the variance where in the NBA, the best players are the best players. But in baseball, you're like, man, this guy for a month, I guess Mateo for the Orioles is the best example right now. Well, I guess we just have to keep it early in the season. April and March last year was great for him. And so far, so good. But the rest of the season last year, not good. And it's like, what metrics am I supposed to look at? And by the time he was finished talking, I came back to what I thought, like, man, you really got to watch the games. But I wanted to offer something. Like, what is one thing, if you're just looking for one thing in particular, or maybe a couple different things to simplify what bets to make? And it came back to you want to bet or at least what I would like to recommend, if you're looking at these props, the over under in outs recorded for the pitcher. And then I don't post this because I haven't been making these bets, but it's something I'm looking into. And so I'm going to share it with you guys. You can bet for the pitcher to pick up the win. So instead of saying, hey, I think the Orioles are going to win tonight, and I'll post this. Actually, let me pull it up while I'm talking. I hate doing that. I wish I was, but hang on one second. So instead of saying I want to bet on the Orioles to win tonight, at least through DraftKings, what you can bet on is that Corbin Burnes will get the win. And the odds will be significantly reduced. And that's one thing where, okay, if I like a big favorite, like the Orioles tonight, maybe the best thing to do is to just bet that Corbin Burnes will get the win. And granted, not to talk down to anybody, but in order for a pitcher to get the win, they have to throw 5 innings, and the team has to be winning when they leave, right? So you are taking, but let's say I just want to pull it up. So Corbin Burnes records a win tonight, -125 for yes. Corbin Burnes and the Orioles to just win the game, -225 at the moment. So that's one way to reduce the odds. If you really like a team, you like the favorite, you like the Orioles tonight, just bet that Burnes gets the win. Because if you don't think that the Orioles are going to have the win or have the lead after 5 innings and Burnes is going to pitch 5 innings, then you really wouldn't bet the Orioles anyway. So that to me is something to look at. And anyway, so that's first. And then secondly, when you're looking at different trends, you want to look at the outs recorded. So if you look at the pitcher, you simplify things and say, all right, before I look at the lineup, and let's just take Kramer from the other night, say, hey, I want to figure out if he's going to pitch well. Because pitching well can mean so many different things. But at the end of the day, what the pitcher is judged on, especially with the Orioles at the moment, with the way our bullpen is, and really with most teams on every night, you want the starting pitcher to give you as many innings as possible. So what I look at with the Orioles, when I really like the pitcher, and I say, you know what, it's a combination of liking the matchup with the pitcher / the bullpen. Well, because the Orioles bullpen is constantly in flux, so this almost applies every single night. And I'm like, man, the goal for the Orioles, the goal for the starting pitcher is get as many outs recorded as possible. So at first I started doing some strikeouts. I was flirting with walks and hits. But what I've settled on is if I really like the starting pitcher, I'm going to go with the first 5 innings, on the money line, assuming that it's under -150 with the juice. And then I'm going to go with the over on outs recorded. And Kramer the other night, they might not clear that number by more than 1 or 2 outs because, the number is high, right? Again, and the pitchers aren't throwing 8 or 9 innings. But a lot of times, the goal, as I was saying, from a coaching perspective, from a managerial perspective, is get me as many innings as possible, especially, like I said, with the Baltimore Orioles and their bullpen and constantly figuring out different roles. And so anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. There's tons of different ways to look at betting on baseball, betting on basketball, hockey. And that's why I say, if you just want to chit chat about it, if you have any specific questions, you can always contact me. But yeah, so my 2 cents on the Orioles for tonight, and I'll put out my exact picks in a few hours when the lineup comes out. But yeah, if you love the Orioles, as these lines become higher and higher, either bet them -1 to reduce the juice, or bet that the starting pitcher picks up the win. And that's one way, to reduce the juice. And if you're wrong that way, I hate saying if you're wrong, but if you are wrong, then at least you're not paying 230, 220, whatever it is on the odds. So, all right, guys, hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. See ya.